Today, we're counting down our picks for the top 10 infamous hackers. For this list, we're looking at hackers notorious for exploiting computer systems and telecommunications networks. Number 10. Kevin Poulsen. Calling himself Dark Dante, Poulsen started hacking as a teenager, targeting telephone companies and phone lines.
He wanted to have power over other people, over the people that he saw as being beneath him.
His most infamous crime was taking over the phone lines of an LA radio station to make himself the 102nd caller and win a brand new Porsche. But the authorities were hot on his heels, suspecting him of also hacking into U.S. military computers.
Kevin Poulsen had allegedly infiltrated U.S. military computer transmissions, obtaining classified Army information. Authorities believe he also obtained classified information about the FBI investigation of overthrown Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos.
He was featured in an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, during which someone crashed the show's tip hotline.
Shortly after our broadcast, the FBI received information that Kevin Poulsen was living near Los Angeles, California.
Poulsen was arrested shortly after, did 5 years in prison, and now works as a respected tech journalist. Number 9. Vladimir Levin. Bank robberies have changed a bit since the old days.
First time being around. You're doing great. Just smile, Loretta, so you don't look like you're being held up.
Now all a hacker needs are the right codes. One of the first in this new generation of bank robbers was Russian systems administrator Vladimir Levin. In 1995, he managed to transfer a whopping $10.7 million from Citibank. His method was surprisingly simple. Accessing the bank's telecommunications system, he just listened to customers providing their account information. Levin was extradited to the U.S. and sentenced to 3 years in prison, and Citibank recovered most of the dough. It later came out that a hacking group had sold Levin the access data for just $100. Number 8. Astra. This Greek hacker named himself after the Sanskrit word for weapon, specifically a projectile such as an arrow. Over a period of 5 years, Astra penetrated deep into the files of French aviation company Dassault Group. His target, data on military-grade aircraft and 3D modeling software, which he then sold to hundreds of buyers around the world. His luck ran out in 2008 when he was arrested and sentenced to 6 years in the slammer. The estimated amount of damage to Dassault was about $360 million. Number 7. Guccifer 2.0. A lot about Guccifer 2.0 is a mystery. He claims to be the hacker behind the 2016 Democratic National Committee email leak, which revealed that DNC officials had hoped to derail Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign.
In one exchange, trying to do that by creating some divisions based on religion.
His alias alludes to the original Guccifer, Romanian hacker Marcel Lazar-Leal, who claimed without substantiation to have hacked Hillary Clinton's private email server. But who is Guccifer 2.0 really? A host of U.S. intelligence experts claims he's a front for Russian hackers.
Now, our source wasn't from the Russian state, but if it had been from a state, would we have suppressed that information before an election, or would we have accurately and fairly published it? Of course we would have published it.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has cast doubt on this conclusion, and Leal believes it was an inside job.
I was honest to the guy. I expect that many more people would, but I did not know that like a Guccifer 2.0 guy is going to show up.
Number 6. Syrian Electronic Army. As civil war rages through Syria, hackers are waging another parallel war online.
As one official told me, they are, quote, more than a nuisance. They are thought to be behind an attack that knocked out the New York Times website earlier this week.
The Syrian Electronic Army is a pro-Assad organization that targets opposition websites and Western media outlets. In 2013, they posted that the White House had been bombed from the Associated Press Twitter account, temporarily wiping billions off the U.S. stock market. But their strategies go further than defacing, redirecting, and crashing web pages.
Since the SEA emerged in May 2011, they've claimed responsibility for defacing or temporarily destroying the websites of huge multinational organisations. Al Jazeera, the New York Times, Huffington Post, Human Rights Watch. They've even hacked the BBC Weather Twitter account.
More sinisterly, they also use electronic surveillance to monitor dissidents and foreign aid workers.
On the Syrian Electronic Army website, the group not only brags about hacking opposition military leaders, but also the countries who support them. Websites belonging to governments and ministries in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have all been hacked, and diplomatic and strategic secrets were revealed.
Since Assad has been accused of war crimes, this places these monitored opponents at significant risk. Number 5. Albert Gonzalez. This hacker had a chance to go straight, but went for broke instead.
But Gonzalez is no ordinary criminal. He'll soon be known as the most cunning cyber crook in American history.
Arrested for credit card information theft in 2003, Gonzalez, also known as Soup Nazi, cut a deal with the authorities. He would inform on his accomplices at Cybercrime Bazaar Shadow Crew and avoid prosecution.
What they do is they distribute these numbers to their contacts in Russia. They make counterfeit cards. They send mules back, or they use mules in the United States to purchase merchandise, and then they fence it off.
Up to this point, his story echoes that of Hector Monsegur, co-founder of hacking group Lulzsec, who made a similar deal. But Gonzalez later pressed his luck, launching campaigns against Dave & Buster's, TJX, and Heartland Payment Systems. He and his crew stole over 170 million card and account numbers.
It's millions. I mean, we're not talking about somebody making a couple of thousand or 5, 10, 15,000. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars.
Gonzalez got rich, but he also got busted and was jailed for 20 years. Number 4. Adrian Lamo.
We call you the homeless hacker because you don't have a residence that you live in all the time. You move around from friend's house to house. Is that how you do it? Or?
I sort of have a long-term tendency to move around. I've been a little bit more stable lately, but I wouldn't say I'm slowing down.
Lamo, who passed away in 2018, was best known for turning in Chelsea Manning for her disclosure of classified documents to WikiLeaks.
People don't understand what it was like to have to make the decision, to have to be in my shoes, and ultimately have to be responsible for putting a young man in shackles at the same age that I was.
But he was also once a gray hat hacker, accessing private networks for kicks, then exposing system weaknesses. His biggest hack was breaking into the New York Times. It was also his biggest mistake. He added his real name to their database of op-ed writers, then notified former hacker Kevin Poulsen to publicize his feat, hoping that the Gray Lady would thank him.
It's a shame that it had to come to this. I think that it could have been done better. I think that the New York Times could have conducted itself better. But I think that it's going to be interesting from here. I intend to make the best of the experience, and I intend to show that this sort of thing can't be seen as a deterrent, that I'm not going to let this deter me from doing what I do.
Instead, the paper pressed charges, and Lamo was fined and sentenced to 2 years probation. Number 3. Anonymous. Some are in it for the lulz, some for the, quote, good of mankind. Anonymous is a hacking collective that originated on the image board 4chan and really hates attempts to censor or control the internet. It first made headlines for a hacking campaign against the Church of Scientology in retaliation for the church's attempts to remove a Tom Cruise indoctrination video from online.
Anonymous has therefore decided that your organization should be destroyed, for the good of your followers, for the good of mankind, and for our own enjoyment.
Other high-profile targets have included Amazon, MasterCard, and PayPal after they cut off services to WikiLeaks.
It's been called Operation Payback. So-called hacktivists secretly infiltrate thousands of other online computers whose owners are unaware of the process. They form a so-called zombie army of robo or slave computers that bombard the mainframes of the target companies with so many messages, the target computers slow down or crash under the onslaught.
In 2020, they rose to prominence again with hacks in support of the George Floyd protests. Although they tend to enter the spotlight sporadically, Anonymous is legion and still very much active.
Unfortunately, we do not trust your corrupt organization to carry out justice, so we will be exposing your many crimes to the world. We are legion.
Number 2. Gary McKinnon. There are hackers who hack for personal profit or just for the thrill of it. Then there are hackers who break into systems to search for aliens.
Of course, it could be a rock, it could be geology. Who knows until you're actually there.
In 2001, Scottish systems administrator Gary McKinnon infiltrated NASA networks, claiming he was seeking proof of extraterrestrials and alien technologies.
It was a picture of something that definitely wasn't man-made. It was above the Earth's hemisphere. It was kind of looked like a satellite.
And according to McKinnon, he found it. He also allegedly caused a shutdown of thousands of military computers. After a 10-year legal battle, McKinnon managed to avoid extradition to the U.S., and all charges were dropped.
We understand that the reason that Theresa May was able to make this intervention on his behalf was because the Home Office committee that looked into his medical issues, as we were saying earlier, he has Asperger's syndrome. The Home Office psychiatrist found that he is a suicide risk.
Before we reveal the identity of our top pick, here are some honorable mentions. Jonathan James hacked into the U.S. Department of Defense for fun when he was 15. Max Ray Vision, formerly Max Ray Butler, also known as Iceman, jailed for stealing almost 2 million credit card numbers. Matthew Bevan, also known as Coogee, hacked into USAF, NASA, and NATO looking for information about UFOs.
Could you have got into the Pentagon as these people did?
Well, the Pentagon is just a computer system like any other. The fact that it is a target and is the head of the top world power just makes it even more so a target.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Kevin Mitnick. He was once the United States' most wanted hacker.
It's not a myth, it's real, and I'm going to prove it's real.
Mitnick's hacking was unique in that he used social engineering to access networks, impersonating authority figures to trick people into divulging information and passwords. In his Black Hat days, he copied software from Digital Equipment Corporation's networks, did time, but went straight back to hacking. While on the run, he was able to monitor FBI communications, even leaving donuts for them before abandoning a hideout.
So, to make a long story short, I was able to get the cell phone numbers of the agents, and then by hacking into the cellular provider, I could monitor where they physically were, physically in Los Angeles. I could also monitor who they were calling and who was calling them.
After a federal prosecutor claimed he could launch a nuclear missile by whistling into a telephone, he served out some of his 5-year sentence in solitary confinement, but now works as a successful security consultant.
And I got punished for it. And what I was able to do was take those lemons, squeeze them really hard with a lot of hard work to gain trust over all these years and create lemonade, and take the skills that I've acquired over this long period of time to help companies protect themselves against the older Kevin Mitnicks of the world.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.